all of these designers were succeeding in Queensland, and it just cropped up over a period of a few years. It's hard to ignore the likes of CMD and Infinity winning Australian Design Awards year after year, really taking out sort of the lion's share of the Product Design Awards. Travelling overseas a lot, as I do with the Quench Collective, so you've got 6 designers who seem to be really succeeding internationally. And then just through the general design marketplace, I guess, in Queensland, you get to know people, and everyone seems to be doing really well. So it seems strange that it hadn't been acknowledged, I guess, this design movement in Queensland and how successful it was. So I think there needed to be a way to document it, and a book just seemed to be the right way to do that. I guess they kind of selected themselves. You really had to be a designer who was visible in the marketplace, visible in the Australian design scene, but also succeeding internationally. And every single designer in the book is doing things all over the world, whether they're selling or they're receiving awards or they're exhibiting or they're represented by a company somewhere in another country. They really sort of just bubbled to the surface, and it was quite easy to go through and say, right, this is our list. Well, there's I guess a mark in time where you see a transition from one design style to another, and I think the early 2000s sort of indicated a maturity in design, certainly with more of a global aesthetic. So I think anything beyond that or before that, you could really identify it as a 90s design, I suppose. And it also, it was the time that where Queensland was really starting to wake up, and in terms of design, it followed certain large design retailers moving to Queensland, so the market was maturing, but also the interior designers were becoming more interested in using Australian and therefore Queensland design. So there were a number of factors, but it was obvious that the decade of the 2000s was probably the best period to start showcasing work. Well, I use this analogy a lot, and I think that for me as a wannabe musician back in the day, it's pretty evident that the similarities. I look at crafting a song, whether it's in your bedroom or in your studio or whatever, very similar to crafting a design. The channels to market are very similar as well. Record companies being very similar to the large furniture design houses of Europe. They control your gateway. I guess they're the gateway to the marketplace. So when you're writing a song, these days you independently record the song. That would be like creating a prototype. You then try and pitch that idea around to various manufacturers or record companies in that case, and then it goes on from there. So I think the creative aspects, you're both going through creative processes, but you're creating something. A record might be like a furniture collection. So there's these stages and gateways and channels that seem to reflect each other all the way through the process. Well, I keep talking about the global warming and the fact that there'll always be a new high tide. The report that came out earlier this week sort of indicates that as well. No, it's just it's a watermark. You know, it's a line in the sand. It certainly is a point at which there is a high tide, but there will be more high tides. And I think any marketplace sort of ebbs and flows, but there are ups and downs, any movements, there are ups and downs, but we're certainly going through a high tide at the moment, and I would consider it to continue. I think it can only continue. It can only get bigger. You know, the design talent that's around, the resourcing, the manufacturing resource that's around, the marketplace being more and more accepting of design. I think there'll be more high tides.